What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. This here is Legitical Response. We cover political news. We keep you up to date and keep you informed on everything that the government does because they do a lot of underhanded stuff. And that's what the hell we talking about today. Some underhanded crap that the government does. Now, we're going to talk about censorship, the censorship industrial complex, as a matter of fact, the First Amendment, because the First Amendment is first for a reason. You know, the First Amendment has always been, a staple of the Constitution. It's the First Amendment for crying out loud, right? It's the first for a reason, because speech is one of the most important vehicles, if you will, to get ideas and thoughts across. And this country was based on cohesive, debatable platforms that we discuss ideas and get these ideas out there and debate ideas and have cohesive discourse, if you will. Now, the landscape of what's going on these days, there's not as much cohesive discourse going on at all. It's more like, you're in a cult. No, you're in a cult. No, you're in a damn cult. No, nobody's in a cult. Well, some people are in a cult. But the vast majority of people, they have their beliefs, and they don't like having those beliefs challenged. But if you don't have your beliefs challenged sometimes, you'll never grow and evolve as a person, if you will. However, the government has been trying to, I guess you could say, herd people into a certain line of thinking. And that's not a very good thing, and that's something that we don't want. You know, the establishment, it has its own will of, a will of its own, and it has a survival instinct, and that survival instinct is threatened by people like me and people like you who make our voices heard. So they want to shut us down, and that's exactly what the government has been doing. Now, we learned of the Twitter files. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that. The Twitter files, the YouTube files, MySpace, Facebook. Well, not really MySpace. I know, I'm old school, I guess. But we learned about the Twitter files was the big one that came out, and everybody was like, holy crap, the government is shutting people's voices down. Right? We learned about that, and it's not a very good thing. Their defense for all this was, we're just fighting disinformation and misinformation. Right, well, the mis and disinformation that they were fighting, some of it wasn't misinformation. It was just, I guess, pre-information that wasn't in line with what the approved establishment narrative, I guess you could say. So they were shutting people down. They were banning people off of Twitter. They were banning people off of Facebook. They were banning people off of YouTube. They were deleting posts and having these people just do whatever the hell they wanted to. The government would call Twitter and say, hey, I don't like this person, let's shut them up. And that's exactly what Twitter would do. Why Twitter was giving in to the demands of the White House and the FBI, I have no idea, because they didn't have to silence these voices. They didn't have to ban these people. They didn't have to comply with what the government wanted to at all, but they did for some reason, and we found out about it. Yeah, that's one of the greatest things that Elon Musk has done as far as free speech goes. Some people are lashing out at Elon Musk because it's not free speech enough. But if it wasn't for Elon Musk, we may have never found out how much the government was trying to shut everybody up, that it wanted to shut up people that were vocalizing and getting the message out about what the government does, people like me. Let's get into the story right quick, because this one's interesting, Al. Supreme Court to hear case on free speech in social media. Yeah, that doesn't sound like a story you'd be like, oh, yeah. But let's get into it, because this was a story I covered a while back, and this is, I guess, an update to that story, so we're going to cover it. The Supreme Court will hear a case Monday that could determine if the White House violated the free speech rights when it asked social media companies to take down content that it deemed as misinformation. The case could radically change how social media companies deal with everything from misinformation about COVID-19 to presidential elections. Yeah, there's a big theory going on. Well, it's not really even a theory as much as it is a fact, I guess you will, that Facebook and all these other social media platforms were working for the Democratic Party, if you will. They were sending messages to people, to Democrat voters, saying, hey, don't forget to go vote. And they didn't send those messages to Republican voters. This is a proven fact. This is not arguable. We know they did this. They did it. The percentage rate of it was like 80% Democrats and only like 30% Republicans were getting these reminders to go vote. So it was very, very skewed in one direction. They were silencing Republican voices a lot more, almost exclusively more than they were Democrat voices, which swayed the election. One case you could look at is the Hunter Biden laptop story. This was silenced, shut down. If you posted anything about the Hunter Biden laptop story before the 2020 election, your posts would get deleted or you would get banned from social media platforms. Not everybody, but any of the bigger voices, they would silence those. A lot of the smaller voices too. I'm sure some people could go under the radar, but these people, they weren't a threat because they're going under the radar. Nobody really sees these people, these posts. So who cares, right? But that is a big problem. There have been several studies that show if the contents of what the Hunter Biden laptop had on it were to come out when that story first dropped, study after study shows that if the Hunter Biden laptop story would have came out and we would have known what we know now before the 2020 election, it's like 17% of the people that voted for Joe Biden would have voted for Donald Trump, making us have a total different president than what we have now. There's been several studies that show that. But let's keep going with this story. While the Biden administration argues spreading certain speech is dangerous, others see its efforts as a serious violation of First Amendment rights. Yeah, that's how they justified, oh, this is dangerous speech. Well, hang on. Once we start getting into that territory, that's a very dangerous path to go down because, what if the tables turn? What if we start saying that, oh, well, all this crap about abortion, oh, they shouldn't be talking about abortion. And the tables get turned on the Democrats and they start silencing Democrat voices. How would you feel about that? How would you feel about getting banned because you claim to be a different gender? Oh, you probably wouldn't like that, would you? Yeah, that's a very dangerous path to go down. And once we start doing that, it can get out of control and you will give the government powers that you may not want the government having those powers. Murphy versus Missouri stems from the COVID-19 pandemic when the Missouri and Louisiana attorneys general filed a lawsuit against the federal government, claiming it pressured social media companies to censor conservative viewpoints about COVID and the presidential election. Senator Eric Schmidt called it the most important free speech case in the history of our country, he explained, because what it does, it alleges and then proves that big government colluded, coerced some of the biggest companies in the history of the world, big tech, these social media giants, to censor millions of American voices, which it did, and it used the guise of misinformation to slip in under the radar and get these social media companies to delete posts and ban people outright. As the former Missouri Attorney General Schmidt led the original case and argues that the Biden administration was pressuring and coercing social media companies to silence the political speech of millions of Americans. They just said that. Why would they put another paragraph in that's almost identical to the other paragraph? Why do they do that stuff, y'all? Leave me a comment down below if you know why. So you saw this sprawling over, a bunch of different agencies, different company, different government actors working with social media companies, again, to silence speech. It's un-American. And so I think it's really important to stand up to that and make sure this stuff never happens again. I would have to agree with that. Last year, a Louisiana district court sided with the attorneys general and said the federal government was coercing and encouraging social media moderation decisions. An appeals court revised some of that ruling, but the Biden administration later asked the Supreme Court to take up the case. Of course it's going to go up. Of course the Biden administration is going to appeal this. They want to silence people. They want to shut us up. Now the court will have to decide on 2 constitutional questions explained by Mary Pat Dwyer, academic program director at the Georgetown Law Institute for Technology, Law, and Policy. First question is the government informally engaging in censorship in violation of the First Amendment? And then the second constitutional question is, does their relationship with social media companies or in the social media companies themselves into state actors who are subject to the First Amendment, she said. I think they are. I think that they are subject. If you are working for the federal government or even Congress, the people's government, if you are working for these, going to these social media companies and saying, take this post down, even if it is misinformation or disinformation, that is wrong. That goes against the freedom of expression, the freedom of speech, the freedom to say whatever the hell you want to say. Now, should we be encouraging people to spew lies all over the place? No, of course not. But do we have the right to tell those people to shut up? Sure, we can say it, but they don't have to abide by that. They don't have to shut up. You can sit there until you're blue in the face and tell them to shut up all damn day long if you want to, but they don't have to shut up. That is the great thing about this country. You can tell me to shut up, but that doesn't mean that I have to. According to Dwyer, it's an important case both because the court hasn't decided on informal censorship issues in a long time, but also because of the upcoming presidential election. We're going into an election year, and platforms are dealing with more and more volumes of information every year, so they need to have clear guidance on who they can and can't communicate with and what those conversations can and can't look like, said Dwyer. And I personally think that the government should not have any involvement with social media whatsoever as far as telling them to silence voices. This is misinformation. Sure, you can have some guidance or whatever that these social media companies can go to and look at and say, yeah, this is dangerous what they're saying, but you shouldn't be able to ban it outright. Maybe put a community note, right? I mean, we're doing that these days. YouTube does this. Every time you mention something about abortion, there's a community note right underneath the thing with a Wikipedia link saying you can go here and find out the quote-unquote truth, right? Which the truth changes sometimes. The truth isn't always the truth. We learned that with COVID-19. You know, first it was wear a mask, then don't wear a mask. Now you got to wear your mask again. No, wear 2 masks. You know, like with the vaccines. You know, the vaccine doesn't transmit. You know, now they're trying to lie and say that they never said that the vaccine would stop transmission. What's going on here? So is it misinformation or is it disinformation? You know, what's going on? So the fact that they ban these voices outright and then come to find out later that was the truth, you know, yeah, there's a problem with that, and the Supreme Court needs to make a decision on this, and I'm pretty sure, we hope, they're going to side with free speech, saying, yeah, they have the right to lie. You might not like it very much, but they have the right to do that. Sorry. Put some kind of side note, like I said, community note in there saying, look, this is what the CDC guidance or whatever, blah, blah, blah. This is what the government is saying. And that's it. Leave it at that. Let the people say whatever the hell they want to say. That's what I think. Let me know what you think down in the comment section. And that's all I got for this one. I want to thank everybody for watching. I sure do appreciate it. Don't forget to hit that like button. And y'all try to have a good day and be positive. Peace.